All right, Sooner fans. Well, I really think and hope that Oklahoma can bounce back after a huge, gut-wrenching loss to top 5 Notre Dame. And this is the game to where we find out if they're ready to do it. They'll play at Iowa State. I'll tell you who's calling the game, the things you may not know about Iowa State. The last time these two teams met, the closest game that they've had, almost the biggest win that Auburn had. The closest, Iowa State's had the closest they've been. The biggest win for Bob Stoops. The King Me Baby is actually a quote from a former Oklahoma Sooner that played for Mr. King Me Baby Barry Switzer. Kenneth Pope, a former OU defensive back from the 70s, later drafted by the Raiders. We'll talk about the division titles by both teams, Iowa State's record and bowl record and all that, and so much more. Coming up, injuries included. All this and more coming up next on the Oklahoma University of Oklahoma, Iowa State University pregame show. Only right here on Boomer Sooner 1982. Well, the game will be on ABC regional coverage. This is the game between the Cyclones and the Sooners. Cyclones, I guess, the game being played in Ames. On your ABC television, if you are in the Oklahoma area or watch it on USPN3.com, you'll hear Mike Patrick, Ed Cunningham, and Janine Edwards on the call. And things to know about the series is that head coach Paul Rhodes has beaten or pushed a division champion in his years at Iowa State. Out in 2009, he beat Nebraska in Lincoln 9-7. He also had a big win, 31-30 loss to Notre Dame the next year in 2010, and last year in 2011, of course. The big one. The big 37-31 double overtime victory over the Cowboys that kept them out of the national championship title. Woo! That's saying a lot. The last time these two teams met, it was Iowa State at Oklahoma, senior night for the Sooners, and it was cold. But as cold as it was, Oklahoma's defense was even colder. To a team that had previously scored 37 points, Oklahoma only let them score 6, as Oklahoma beat Iowa State 26-6 in Norman on senior night for the Sooners. The closest win in this set was in 2007, who at that time Iowa State was being coached by the guy that's now Auburn, Gene Chizik, and that game was a 17-7 loss in Ames. The biggest win for Bob Stoops in this era was the 52-0 drumming that Oklahoma had in 2010, 3 years ago. The Barry Switzer King Me Baby moment brought to you this week by a former Sooner in his own right. He is a coach on the Iowa State staff. He is Mr. Kenneth Pope. He played at Oklahoma from 71 to 74 and was a Raider, or drafted by the Raiders of Chokeland, Oakland in 74. This is what he says about playing the Oklahoma Sooners. He says, quote, it's a treat. I try to treat all of the games the same way. When you prepare each week, you prepare the same way. But obviously, when you play your alma mater, you always like to be able to find a way to win. It kind of makes you feel good. I really don't see me putting any extra work in, but because I do the same thing in preparation-wise each week. But sure, you love to beat those guys. The division titles for each team. For Pope's new team of Iowa State, they've come close. They've come oh so close the last couple of years, or the last few years. Before Nebraska and Missouri hit their stride, Iowa State had their chance. But it seems like they always lost to Colorado. They always lost a game that ended up killing their chances at the divisional title. So they don't have any divisional titles. They don't have any conference championships. As far as Oklahoma, of course, they have it in 2000, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2010. Divisional championships. Of course, as we talked about, conference championship games. Iowa State hasn't played in any. They don't have any. Oklahoma, of course, in 2000, they beat Kansas State in Kansas City. In 2002, they beat Colorado in the Alamo Dome. 2004, they beat Colorado again in Kansas City. 2006, they beat Nebraska again in Kansas City. 2007, they beat Missouri in San Antonio. 2008, they beat Missouri in Kansas City. In 2010, they beat Nebraska at the new Cowboys Stadium. And as far as bowl records are concerned, by Paul Rhodes' standards, they're 1-1. Their most recent game that they played in the 4 years was the newest one. The bowl game was the Pinstripe Bowl when they played Rutgers. They lost 27-13 in the new Yankees Stadium. Yankee Stadium. Oklahoma with a 1-1 record in bowl games, as I said. Oklahoma 7-6 record in bowl games. Oklahoma, Bob Stoops in his 13th year. And the Insight Bowl was the last bowl game they went to last year. They beat Iowa State, of course. Went to play Rutgers last year. Oklahoma went to play Iowa State's rival Iowa in the Insight Bowl in Arizona last year. Won 31-14, the final score on that one. Injuries for both sides. Iowa State's got a couple of them. Josh Wentz, a receiver, has a quadriceps tear. Also, Jake Knott, the newest, they're all Big 12 linebacker, tore his shoulder. And Shabian Ditka, the offensive lineman, is injured, and it's for a non-disclosed reason. Suspensions, injuries to Oklahoma. Of course, the newest one on this list, Taylor McNamara. His shoulder also. It happened last weekend against Notre Dame. On this list also should be Damian Williams. A lot of people, including Bob Stoops, thinks that he will be ready to go, healthy, rocking and rolling by the time that the Iowa State game rolls in. But he's still on the injury list. The rest of them, of course, you already know them all. Nila Kasatati out, the offensive lineman with a knee injury. Marshall Munsell out with a knee injury. Tyler Evans out with a knee injury. Suspensions, Trey Franks, Quentin Hayes, and Jazz Reynolds. Now, there are rumors that the Quentin Hayes suspension is done and over with. He put that on his Twitter account. That has not yet been confirmed nor denied by the university. So he may think that he's out of the woods, but apparently Bob Stoops doesn't think so. My goals for this team to be able to actually go in there and get back for what they did against Notre Dame, to get things rocking and rolling on the right track and not to hit this trap game. There's three of them, of course. Offensively, keep your balance. Iowa State's defense is good, but they're not Notre Dame. And they're not Kansas State. You should be able to balance them out pretty well. So you got to balance them out. Defensively, keep everything in front of you. Just like last week, they kept everything in front. You got to shut down their running game and their passing game. They are susceptible to this. They can do this. Remember, they played Kansas State a couple of months ago. OU Texas weekend, actually, a month ago, and almost came away with the victory there. And special teams, just be special. Do something special for yourselves. Make the kicks. Make the punts. Kick returns, punt returns, that kind of thing. If you do that, this should be a pretty easy win for Oklahoma. Thanks for watching my pregame show. I'll have a post-game show up soon. And this has been Boomer Sooner 1982. And thanks everyone for watching. And as always, Boomer Sooner!